Okay, we're going to be proactively parenting in terms of releasing children into various levels of responsibility starting early and then working our way up through here.
Yeah, that one of the things as a parent is you want to kind of hang on to the protection angle of it, and there's a good reason for it. You're their parent; they need protection, but they also need to launch out a little bit, and part of that is just household responsibilities, like maybe chores, maybe instead of the helicopter parenting, the little bit of the turn loose out in the playground, and yeah, they might bump their head and they might skin their knee, but there's not much faster way to learn of I don't want to be running out of control because I might scuff my knee or bump my head, so I'll be a little more careful. But if you're helicoptering, they never get the chance to learn that.
Well, there was an example given where a little bitty guy was, I mean, like two, less than two probably, because he was waking up during his nap, and they put him up on like their bed, so their bed's sticking up, obviously kind of high off the floor, and so sorry, my nose itches. But anyway, I'm not squinting at the camera. I could be, but anyway. So the thing is the little guy was waking up, and then he's trying to get off the bed. So he bailed off and banged his head and cried, and it was all a big thing. And so anyway, the one anecdote was to say, well, you got to put him like on the floor, or you got to put him in a crib, or something like that, where he cannot possibly fall and hurt himself. The other answer to this dilemma was, hey, if he's got a brain and a half sense, it'll never happen again. And of course, we know that we just described two kinds of parents. The kind of parent that would absolutely say the kid don't have any sense, he'll probably fall off 100 times, so we got to put him in a cage, and that may be you, or it could be me. And then we got the other kind of parent that says, hey, we didn't raise any fool around here. Surely he will figure this out pretty quick, and he'll quit falling off that bed. So, which is it going to be?
And I'm throwing out there the idea that it works out better in the long run to what feels like to you as the parent to take some chances with them with minor injuries. That's the parenting part, is figure out the environment so that it will be minor. But the overprotective at some point backfires. And that's going to be your judgment. Nobody can put that on you, but I'm just throwing it out there of explore that idea of let them range out a little further than you're totally comfortable with, but it'll pay off in the long run.
Well, especially I'm thinking when we get past the toddler and infant stage, and now you've got a young person in the house that can really do things if you let them. And if you'll teach them and train them to be responsible for certain types of chores and jobs and activities, then they can certainly do them. Of course, the problem there is if you don't, now you got to entertain your child somehow or other because you're not letting them work. And frankly, I just believe that a certain amount of responsibility in what would look like the working realm, serious jobs that you would have to do if your child was not trained and empowered to do that. Well, you're doing the youngster a real disservice because they're not going to learn to do anything at that rate. And you're doing yourself a disservice because now you can't get it all done either. So let them be a part of the family and let them learn responsibilities, as they're big enough and responsible enough to do it.
And I'll throw in as a parent, you may have to exercise a little more patience than you would like to get them started. For instance, when they're pretty small, tell them to do something like make your bed, clear the dishes. Especially when I started and I could barely reach the table. That might be a little much as to you that makes sense as a command. To them, they're like, I don't know how to do that. And you're like, how could, you have to start thinking in simple steps like, this is how you pull the blanket back across on this side, and then you got to go over on the other side. Or you clearing the table means one plate at a time, and then the cups, one cup at a time and put them up on the counter. And to you, that's ridiculous. But you ordered them to clear the table and it didn't get done. Now you're frustrated, and probably they're frustrated too. So I'm saying you got to think this through. But you can start them a lot younger than you think. I had to stand on not a footstool, a big stool, to do the dishes when I started out, and I may have resented it a little bit, but it was the beginning of me learning to be responsible and do things.
Well, I think the rule of thumb is that kids generally can do more than we would expect.
Yeah.
So we can push them a little bit, and whatever you're comfortable with, and what's your wisdom has to enter in as to what's really within the realm of reason. But the principle would be that they can do more than we would probably immediately assume that they could. And hearkening back to days gone by, gosh, like on the farm, a 7, or 8-year-old running a tractor would probably be very commonplace. By the time they're 10, they ought to be able to maintain the tractor as well as operate it. So, we've dumbed down a lot.